Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Madden God. I'm Max, your host, and I'm here joined as every day, every podcast by the inimitable, the wonderful, the amazing, the one and only, and forever Roxanne. Hi, Roxy.
Hi, hon. A little
How are
heavy on the
you?
intro, huh? I'm good.
I told you the intro has to be done rightly, and it's that when you start great, you can only go up. There's the only way to go.
That's it.
So, all right, so we're back, and what are we going to talk about today?
Well, you know. Let them
Yeah,
know.
I know. And I'm gonna
Bring it
share
in.
it
It's your
with
idea. It was a
everyone.
great idea. Bring it up.
So today we're going to talk about what we learn, so the teachings we receive at school, education, all of that stuff that is given to us mainly as children. When we start learning and right growing up, we have to learn all the human stuff. And this taking this and comparing this to what is the knowing. When we start to know things and the knowing that we feel in our heart, that is always there, that we have always had, right? Even as we were born, we already have this knowing with us. We don't have access to it, or we're losing the access to it, or we stop remembering. Well, I don't know. But as we become humans, that is not something that we can access, let's say, consciously. And we start to receive the human education learning, and it starts with the generally with our parents telling us what to do, what not to do, with whom to speak, with whom not to speak, what is good, what is bad. The dark man in the car, under the bed, that if you do not behave, it's gonna come and take you away. These kind of things. And then you go to school, you know, learn mathematics, your history, geographics, all those things. And then you grow up and you go to high school, and it becomes much more, let's say, interesting and difficult. And then you go and you start working, and all that baggage that you have, and that becomes your main um, tool of what you know and what you refer to as intelligence, as oh, that those that are very clever, very intelligent, are very good in mathematics. They are very good in doing in right with those things, and then they can have the better job. The job that are the best paid are for those that are very good at school, because that's where our value is tested. If you are good at school, then well, you are a better human being, because that's what your teachers and your grades are telling, right? Oh, you're good. You're able to calculate. You're able to remember history. You're able to do this kind of thing. So you are good. So here is the best jobs. And those that are not good, well, they have the lesser jobs and the lesser earnings, and they'll be struggling because, well, the society is built for those that win at school and in that knowing. And that is how we build it, right? That's the basic, the basic. Now, though, that's where we come from, and that's what we have, or we all have been there, right? Now, though, we have discovered that there is another things that, let's call it the knowing. I know. and that I know is not part of what it's mainly taught on in this reality. We don't receive it through that. It's that knowing that we know. Now I know. And how do I know? Because I know. No one told me. Or maybe there is, all right, okay, I received information. We can talk about that. The thing is that I know, and the information is there, and I don't need to go and have it validated anywhere, even though the human side of me will try to get the validation through that, because I will have doubts, because no one is talking about these things. No one is using that knowing, because it's not out there. What is this knowing? Well, part of this knowing is what we were talking last week, or one of the previous episodes, is I'm God, you're God, Roxy is God, we are all gods, creators. You start receiving this information and you start evaluating it, and then you come to a point where it becomes a knowing, because it's a knowing, and that is a knowing that you have. It's there. It's part of what I was saying before. The knowing is already there. We already have the know. We know everything. We just let it aside as humans, and now it's coming back. And we are bringing this knowing back for ourselves. But then what is that we are creating with this knowing? But we are creating a opposition, not in ourselves, but we are creating an opposition with what is the teachings that we have received and our knowing. So that we have the egotic part that we have built, created, that is created, that we are using mainly as human beings, that is referring mainly to what is the mainstream education in our planet, and that says, well, this is the truth. This is how it goes. It's the school. It's what we have learned. And then we have our knowing that is not going in the same direction. It's saying something different. Is we know different. We know that when certain things happen, we know that we know. And so what are we going to express? What are we going to relate to? The teachings or the knowing? Am I going to use what I know is real for me and not just for me? I know it's not just me, but still it's my perspective. So I will apply it as my perspective. I know that that is what it is, but let's be humble and remember that it's me. So I know those things, and I know that things work in a certain way, right? Like, oh, I know that being intentional doesn't work. Am I able to generalize that and say that for everyone intention doesn't work? I'm not able to do that because I'm not you, I'm not anyone else, I'm just me. And I know what is my perspective, and I know what works and doesn't work for me. So I know that intention doesn't work for me. And I supposed to know that that is the case for everyone. But everyone that I interact to is still my perspective. So I cannot generalize that for every God, for every creator, however I know. But I'm right, I'm stick with me, with what I know, with what is in my perspective. So I know that doesn't work. But the teaching we receive is a teaching that says you have to do things. You have to take responsibilities in what you do. And when you have a project, you have to work very hard. When you have a job, you have to work very hard, right? You have to do. Our knowing now is different. So what are we going to relate to? Am I going to have the knowing, intention doesn't work, and then having my learning that says you have to be intentional? Which one am I going to follow? My knowing of my teachings that I've received? I think it's a very good question. And even if I choose to follow my knowing, because I know it, so why would I take the teachings? When I go into when I decide, well, and I know this is what it is. Intention doesn't work. I'm creating my reality. I'm a God, and all of those things. Those are the knowing now. My teachings are different, and I've been in my teachings for years and years and years. How do I bring myself into relating into my knowing permanently, or as closely as permanently as I can? And if I say this, am I not intentional? Am I not trying to say I have to do something in order to bring myself into my knowing and apply my knowing? Isn't that intentional still? So the line is clearly very tiny, and what we are repeating many, many times is that you do not act. You go into acceptance, allowing to transcend and transcend and transcend until then your knowing is not just knowing, it's also what you apply to yourself, but you cannot do it into the will, right? But this is one thing. Still, even when you work on yourself in bringing your knowing into your awareness and into your main way of being, right? Into the being. I know, and now I am it, which is the same thing, but for us, it's this building up and coming into it. Unconditional and not intentional. This is part of how you make the movement. But that movement happens because it happens, not because I want to have it, but because it happens. So whatever it may be, I cannot just wake up in the morning and say, oh, today I will be I am. It's not going to work that way. But nevertheless, let's say, right, we transition into this unconditional I am with what we know, right? And we express that. Are we leaving completely behind what we have learned? Is that going to disappear? Or as we are part of this reality, that will be there until we are all together, so we are all one, until we transcend it collectively. The collective transcend, and then those things will fade away, go away, and we will express the knowing. So the knowing, creator, God, right? These things. I don't know, Roxy, what
Well, I'm good.
you're good? Right.
Can you
No,
hear me okay?
it's just
Yeah.
that Yeah. I was having a message, so that's why I was a little bit. That
Oh no,
was
keep
nothing. It
going.
was
Keep
just
going. You're doing fine.
distraction. So, uh, and this is, I think, something that we now have to look into, because the teachings that we have received, the education we have received, for how some receive very high level education, they have so much paper, so much human knowledge, right, that they have, for how much you have that, we can see now that that is not enough. And when I say it's not enough, I'm saying it's not enough in the sense that it's not giving value. How many people that have so much knowledge, so much education, so much of all of that, still they are not enough, missing. They are not master of themselves. That education, that way of building up human being and preparing them for what? For being productive, for being good people into a society that has to produce and right, being very juicy, right? That really being taking out everything you have, to be to deliver that you are supposed to deliver. And so it's still not enough. So the question actually here is, do we stay in that not enough, accepting that side of being educated, being a good producer, a good part of the society that is right doing those things that are supposed to be done? And clearly, we can feel, we can see that that is not enough for many and many and many and many, because questions are there and people are expressing this not enough in different ways. They're unsatisfied, they have mental breakdowns, they have mental health problems, etc., because they are not feeling good into those cages that they have built for themselves. So we now ask that, or I'm asking this, or I'm putting this out here, right? If that is not enough, then what is enough? Well, enough is you, me, Roxy. I am me. I am enough. And that's the transitioning from that I've learned something and I am very clever, very intelligent with what I've learned, into, well, now I transition into I know. I trust me. I trust what is inside of me. I trust that knowing. If the teacher tells me something and my gut, my heart, me, I feel that's bullshit, then that's bullshit. I will not accept what they say just because everyone will say the same thing. Oh, they have been teaching this for years, for hundreds of years. It must be absolutely right, correct, right? Oh my goodness, the theory of evolution, it must be correct. It's hundreds of years of teachings, the evolution. If your gut is saying to you, no, that's not working, that's not, I know it's not that, but can I trust me? Can I trust myself of having a knowledge that is not supporting the main teaching? Can I have that? Of course you can. Of course you can. Why won't you? But you're supposed not to. You're supposed to take that and run with it all your life. But that is what we are seeing now, witnessing now, is that that is not enough. And that is not enough because many are waking up to the fact that those teachings are not fulfillment. They are not bringing the human into feeling human, into being the self, into assessing the self and evolving the self. This is what we are bringing now. This is what we are awakening now with the knowing, the self, you, me, Roxy, everyone else. This is what we are bringing. The knowing is the recognition of the self, the trust in the self. I know and I trust me that what I know is, and I don't need what? I don't need proofs. I don't need anyone else to give me any validation. I know there is no time, and I'm not going to ask any science to validate that because I know it. Why would I need science to validate? Why would I need proofs? I know. You see, that is the difference. Also, between the I know and I've been taught. That has been taught will always need what? Validation and proofs. Because that's what they base really all of teachings, all those schools and all of that. It has to be validated. And how many people I have seen that comes out and say, oh, there are proofs. There are proofs. You want to see the proofs? You want to see the proof? There are many, many, many proofs. Of what? And then there are proofs that are disproving the proof. Because generally there is always that, right? We are in a reality that has plenty of that. You have thousands of proofs that this is true, but you have also thousands of proofs that that is not true. But then that is brought and said, now we can teach this. It's been proven. So we transition into the knowing, into the self. And we discover the self. That's the knowing. That's what we are bringing out now.
I want to point something out. Proof and not proof. Just because it's proven doesn't mean you have to follow it. Always remember that. It doesn't. Who gives a fuck if it's proof? It doesn't mean you have to make it your truth. And just because it's false doesn't mean you need to make it your truth either. You have to see the clarity in this idea about the knowing. The knowing doesn't adventure into the idea of external validity. The knowing is purely internal. It has nothing to do with validity, as Max said earlier, the validation of it. The validation is an emotional relationship. Because you're born in lack, and we're taught that in the outside through a systematic idea of schooling and the knowing of what to know, and that's the value of the person. There are many, many things, many trades that have fallen by the wayside that we needed to know, and now we don't even give them attention. But at those times, the perspectives, that was so valuable, and if you didn't have that trade or that skill or that knowledge, then you were looked on as less than. And the same goes as nowadays, but it's just changed external ideas of definitions, external validities. So the internal knowing is not a process of intentional knowing. It's an allowance of self-discovery through the emergence belief systems that you are acting on as the knowledge, your behavioral aspects, what you're supposed to be doing, what you should be doing, what you can be doing, and my God, what you can be doing. And then we value ourselves on those predicated postulates of formulated structures and standards. And if you don't hold yourself to them, then you have a judgment in your own mind about them. So whatever that is going to be your experience. That's what you need to see, because the experience of external validation keeps you behaviorally actionable. And that's what you need to see. The internal doesn't take action on its knowledge, it takes action on its knowing. And its knowing is an eternal truth of this singular I am. Now, but if you're in separation, as humans are, we're very comparative and we're always standardizing something. So it's real obvious, isn't it, folks? I mean, what is valued out there as a standard? And then if you're not part of that standard, then you're in the wrong in those people's standards. See, if you really look close, if you're sharp, then you see the whole fucking world doesn't have a standard. There isn't one standard in the world except for one fucking standard in the entire world. Christian isn't a standard because there's Muslims. Muslim isn't a standard because there's Jewish. Jewish isn't a standard because there's Teo or Buddhism, and which is a way of life, which is controversial to a religion. See, there's no standards except one. Think hard. Think hard. Come on. What is the one fucking thing that remains in the whole goddamn story? You. You're the constant. See, that's what you need to see. You're always present in the story. Projecting yourself into a vibrational holodeck of co-created thought that manifests itself in a physical reality for an experience of the singularity. And that sums it up in a nutshell. And that's not the finite. Oh, no. That's not even the conclusion. That's a perspective. So the knowing of that is an internal. And me, that's my knowing. My knowledge about that is irrelevant. My experience has moved me into the knowing that that's how I exist. That's what it is. So do I need to prove that? Of course not. Do I need your validation for that? Of course not. Do you need my validation? Do you need my proving? Of course not. I mean, where are you in this fucking equation except consistent? How long have you spent juggling reality truths around your entire life trying to figure out the story? When all of that juggling and all that figuring and all that intention and all that outcome is the motherfucking story? Have you not understood that that's the story of you? Is your entire life put together with a memory, stringing together these pockets of nows that look like a timeline, but they're truly existing in a relationship of now, using memory and time as the experience, as the story? So this knowledge is power, is a fucking sham. Now, don't get me wrong, knowledge is great, education is great. I'm not saying that. Not at all. I'm not saying go around being a fucking Nimrod. But I'm saying trust your internal self. We start out on this planet, we have education. That's the current space-time continuum. That education is changing constantly, and it ain't going to change in the lifetime of anyone who's in the earshot of these words. But it is changing. It's being represented and different every day. That takes generations to change. And we're changing. We are a very, very young species. We're a very young species in the idea of awakening. Oh, we're an old species. We've been around a long time if you add up all of our timelines. But we're talking about the awakening, the change, the manifestation of a collective potentially moving itself towards a unison, you know? And so we have to work out all of our differences. But we can't negotiate with these differences. We have to represent not the difference, the truth of each singularity, which allows us to bring the potential of experience as an offering instead of a standard. And then any kind of standard will turn into a comparison. And then your knowledge has to battle against their knowledge. And then whatever that outcome is just a fucking story. I mean, we have these great votes coming up here in America next week. You know, it's the big votes and who's going to own the Congress and the Senate and all this stuff. And all of that is just a story for each person playing out that. It doesn't matter who wins or loses because that's all subjective opinion of an experience of each co-creator in this manifested holodeck. It's an experience. So when you get out of the knowledge on who's best, better, bet, and this or that, when you get out of the knowing knowledge of right and wrong, the knowledge of best and worst, those things that you interpreted yourself to make your own truths that stand in time, you can start leaving that world and going into the world of knowing. And a lot of those knowledgeable ideas might be your truth. I'm not saying that they're wrong or right. I'm saying, where are you constant in this picture, except in objectification going back and forth between the two polarities? Wouldn't it be nice to live life without a point of view, of an opinion, but having the point of view of unconditional, and living your life unconditionally, and living your knowing in the now that is unnegotiable, unmeasurable, can't be downtrodden by another because you have no value in an opinion that's externalized because you know yourself. You know, it'd be like someone coming up to you and telling you what you did was wrong and you never did that. And you knew you never did that. You wouldn't accept that. You wouldn't go, oh, you're right, I shouldn't have done that, I'm so sorry. Unless your guilt is that idea or you victimize yourself and you weren't even in the vicinity of the whole fucking ordeal and they're blaming you and you just like, no, I wasn't there, thank you very much, have a Coke and a smile. Because you know it's not you, it's the same equal. A knowing allows you not to be another point of view. And then as you shave off these opinions, these standardized idea belief systems that we bought into, born on separation, the only thing that's revealed is the knowing of yourself, the internal worthiness, the internal truth, your internal persona, and you emerge that self and you start enacting that self, and that self is going to tell you, here's the knowledge of the image that I'm supposed to be, and here's the knowing of myself. Which one would I rather express today? And either one is right because it's just a story, and no one's in charge of the story. No one gives a flying fuck about your story. Only you. You're the one that's selling you the hook, line, and sinker, the bringing of pleasure and pain. Only you interpret your reality. Those truths that are coming, they're not, that we call them outside truths, that are standards, are truly choices. That's what they are. That's all they are. That's all they'll ever be. But since we're born externalized and we have no value of ourselves and we're automatically born less than and reinforced by our schooling that says you're a fucking idiot until you know this. And when you know this, then you'll do. And if you don't know this, well, then you can't have the good stuff in life. You can only have the shitty and the mediocre stuff in life. You're stuck buying lesser products and living in lesser housing and eating lesser food and living lesser life because you don't have this knowledge, this ability to be quick and calculating. So let's go suck some guy's cock because he can calculate fast. You know? Or let's lick someone's ass because they're a movie star and they know how to act and all of a sudden they have some precedence of this greatness. See, that's externalism and that's envy. And that's what people value. So these teachers and these ideas, they reinforce these structures. So we have to go out and live these vicariously through envy and through externalism because our schooling says if you're not this, then you're less than. If you are this, then you're going to be on top of the mountain. And I'm not putting down great businessmen. I'm not putting down Elon Musk's and George Steve Jobs. I'm not putting these guys down. They're great. They went to school. They got educated. That's great. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's up to you to be your passion and your internal worthiness. It's never about what people are or aren't. It's always fucking about how you are relating to it. And one recognizable idea is knowledge. The knowledge as opposed to the knowing. The knowledge is externalized. If I know this and I know this and I can regurgitate this fast enough and I can calculate these ideas fast enough and come out with a conclusionary of the highest possibilities that the group of people that are around me accept as revering, then I'll be on top of the world and they'll pay me. And then I can live an awesome life of that. And that's a human life and you can have that life. And I would encourage you to go have it if that's your joy. But you have to realize the differences of those relationships if you're an awakener. Because those things will fail. They always fail. They fail so you can build them up again. They have to be maintained. You have to effort yourself for a life of constant attainment of identity. That's not wrong. That's human. We're not being human here. We're being godly, divinicus, a different relationship. Trusting the internal self. Living that way every day without waver and doing the internal work of deconstruction, transcendence of these external knowledge, beliefs, and images that we hold value over our own existence, which is self-evident in the constant story. You've never left the story. Never. You've always counted. You can never lose the fucking story because you're law one. You are existence. You are I am. Period. And if you want proof, how about time? You've been here the whole fucking time, haven't you? That's not proof enough? Really? Okay. Well, then that's your truth. That's your experience. That's your life. And then you'll look up 20 years later, chasing the fucking dream, and you'll go, damn, almost had it. Damn, I almost made it. Fuck, I'm just not good enough. I guess this is what I'm meant to be. And you'll fight. You'll fucking fight for your lack. You'll justify it to be less than. Because the standard that you hold yourself accountable to isn't met. I was holding myself accountable to an idea. Let me give you an example. I'm reckless when it comes to money. But I was holding myself accountable to the image I was supposed to be. Didn't even realize it. I was claiming my recklessness, but I never realized, hey, that's okay. Because I was holding myself in accountability, so I should be safe and secure with my money. But then I was lacking myself and saying I'm reckless, so I would spend it. But then I was actually mad at myself because I was supposed to be something else. I was like, wow, I'm fighting two fucking truths here. And then I finally found the knowing. And the knowing says, fucking A, you are what you are in the moment without the identity. And it's okay to be whatever it is. What are we supposed to be? Some person that fears the future? Some person that takes itself and dampens its own light for the responsible acceptance of others? Oh, you're very responsible for your money. You'll always have money. That's great. But you'll be a miserable fucking sow. I'll tell you that. You'll be feeling yourself egoically responsible. And that's another shored up fucking emotional image. So if you are standing yourself with an existing idea of knowledge, that knowledge creates an identity. That identity must be upheld. You'll live your life through that vicariously emotional self. See, you're not actually living that. You're creating that as an experience because the creator, you, doesn't have a condition about itself. It doesn't maintain a posture. It doesn't hold itself accountable. It doesn't claim it's reckless or needs to be conservative. Those are all the bullshits of humanity. That's what we were taught. That's the knowledge. What do you think, Max?
Right, found it. Yeah, absolutely. And, then you get to the moment, to the point where you can observe yourself and see the difference. See when you are relying on the appearance, the external, on other standards to tell you what you are, if you are valuable, not valuable, if you are doing good, bad, if you are enough or not. I had a discovery just yesterday. I I had some years ago. I started doing having a project of documentary movie that I wanted to do. So we filmed it and I edited it and we had something and then we stopped at some point, founding, blah blah blah, all of that. And then I was talking with my husband and we're talking about the project and suddenly I realized, wait a second, the movie is finished. It's achieved, it's done. I did it. But if I set myself to the external standards, it's not finished. There are things to change. There is more to film. There is this, blah, 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 all those things because actually, well, all of those things. And then I realized, no, it's done. And I was feeling that I was failing in getting to the end of a project. No, I start things and never go to the bottom. I never go to the end. I never finish. I let them there, and it's 7 years now. Oh goodness, I'm not able to. And now I'm proving myself, or I'm giving myself the knowing, the realization that actually no, that is that was just me externalizing it, keeping it external and with other standards. And as soon as I bring it back to me, the perspective changes completely. And I realize, oh, I've done it. But that knowing, that understanding doesn't come from any external standard, any external validation. I understood it for me. And And I realized I am now knowing that it's done. Look how different it is between feeling the failure or having a external impression of failure and then realizing, oh, wait a moment, no, it's done. And you see, well, the thing that I realized there that in the knowing is that then do I need to have that validated by any external standard, by showing it anywhere and having people say, I liked it, oh, I didn't like it, oh, that, do I need that? And to have it validated as finished, well, no. The only authority is me. That changes completely the relationship with the experience. I go from something where I was saying, oh, it's a failure, realizing, oh no, it's not a failure, it's an experience. And the experience is done. It's different. It's the evolution. It's bringing the self front center and stopping taking the external values as anything, as the main center of any knowing or any knowledge of any standard or any validation or any things like that. No one can tell me whether it's done or not, whether I fail or not, unless I accept it. But the moment I accept it, then I'm validating the external point of view, which, by the way, it's only external because we are saying it's external just for an explanation. It's not external. Even that, it's not external. It's still internal. But as a point of view to make the difference between what we use as internal and what we illusion as external. But it's still internal. But that's aside. So I am the only standard. I am the only one that can do that.
Let me make a point about that. Why do we accept it externally? Because our knowledge tells us that's the truth, and it's a trigger. It happens so fast. And we automatically, like when you feel guilt, it's a knowledge. It was a taught system. And then we react to that and we get our experience in its immediacy. So we accept it, but we usually don't accept things as a time mannerism. We're usually triggered into it because it's a reaction, because it's automatically based on knowledge that we got was true. And then we get the reaction. So what we're saying is, look at that external truth, and we accept that external. That becomes our experience. That's not what's going to happen or what we're holding ourselves accountable with. That's the moment that you have to really start seeing, recognizing, I'm creating this experience because my truth, my knowledge says this is true. But is there a knowing that's beyond the knowledge? Can I look at this and not accept this as the truth? And recognize my belief system as a reactionary knowledge that gives me that emotional experience. That's a big thing for us to look at. Big thing.
Yeah.
So if someone takes an action and I look at that action and that action creates an emotional relationship of experience, whether it's positive or negative is irrelevant. That's an experience based upon that action externalized, and then I'm interpreting it as my truth. But is it my truth? Is it my knowing or is it my knowledge? Because if it's my knowing, I'm not going to have a positive or negative reaction. I'm going to have an experience that's unconditional. Although it might feel positive, it might feel unpreferenced, or not my preference, but it's a relationship that's different.
Yeah.
I have to see that. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, and another experience that I had yesterday, I broke my glasses. So I was waiting to have them replaced and was just waiting the right moment. So yesterday, we're in Spain this week. So yesterday we went in a shop here in Spain. And first time ever that I do this because, well, sometimes you're just there and say, oh, I'm not doing this in another country. I do it if there is a blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we went in, and so I asked about having my glasses replaced with new ones. So basically what happened is that I have new glasses coming, and not just I have new glasses coming, but I have also glasses that cost me 3 times less than what I will have paid in my country. And not just that, but I went into the shop buying my new glasses in a moment where they gave me the glasses half price. So this is to say what we are talking about. We say this a lot. When is the moment to action? You will know it. It will present itself. You don't know how. because you cannot know that previously, but it's just there, and you know, yesterday was the moment to go into a glasses shop and buy my glasses. That was the moment, taking the action, and just happened. It was not intentional. I didn't go into there with the intention of having half price and paying much less and having good new glasses, blah, 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 right? It was not intentional, but it just happened. And it was happening exactly the right way. And I just wanted to share this because I think it's really what we are talking about every week, what we are having, the experiences we're having, right? When we share, when we talk, when we give this knowing, right? This is how it works. It's just, it happens exactly in the moment when it happens. And it's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfection. You cannot plan it. You cannot expect it. You cannot will it. It just happens. Like that. And there it is. Now I have just to go back and have my glasses in a couple of days. And there you go. So
it's easy.
yes, it is. It is absolutely easy. And and that's what is so difficult for us to accept as a knowing, is that it is easy. It's reality is easy.
What's our knowledge say about society, about the world? It's hard.
Yes.
Life isn't easy.
Oh yeah.
They always say that. So our knowledge says it's hard, so we have a tendency to make things hard. Because we don't trust that things can be easy. So we don't allow, we interfere with the now with intention. Exactly. We don't allow ourselves to align with the vibrational reality that is in the frequency of alignment happening in the now. We disrupt ourselves with intention and get that life. That's not a bad life. Oh, no, of course not. I'm just saying it's a structured life. It's a life of intention, a life of knowledge, not a life of knowing. Different lives, different realities.
And I mean, right? It works because there are many people having that. And so there is no judging that as good or wrong or whatever. It's just the way it is. However, it's a life of effort, of hardship, of pain, physical pain and mental pain and all of that.
Definitely mental pain. Absolutely. Emotional pain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you have just to you can just do, if you want a exercise, you just sit in the middle of a square, with a lot of people going around, and you just sit there and you look at them, and you will see that. You will see the physical pain, you will see the mental pain that many people are going through, because it's there and it cannot be hidden. It's literally coming out of every cells of their being. It's there in display. And it's how it goes. It's not that you are making the wrong choices or that they are doing the wrong things. Is that the life of effort and of pain and of that is chosen? It's that, and it cannot be hidden. We can hide nothing, right? Because we are all connected, so it's you can see it. It's there. It's out there. And again, it's not that there is a better choice than another one. We are all having all the experiences. It's not that we are avoiding anything. So the life of hardship and pain and all of that, we are experiencing it. We're not avoiding it.
And let me say this, there's never a better choice. There's a better choice in knowledge, always, but there's never a better choice for yourself. Your choice is always the best self you've ever done.
Yeah,
But the key here is to leave the choices of knowledge and get into the choices of the knowing.
exactly. Yes.
Yes.
To discover and to evolve the self, because this is why we are here, right? This is why we are attracted to be here right now, and exchange this, because we are choosing differently, as we want to choose differently. We want to express ourselves in a different way, just because we can, and because we are worth it, in the sense that I am enough. And this is me expressing exactly that. For me, you're doing the same. We're all doing the same. Because, and it's not that that makes us better. It just makes us making a different choice. Choosing the self.
Yeah. Just a different idea, different relationship with reality, different choices, different perspectives. Because everything is about a perspective. So if you started changing your perspectives, wouldn't you have a different life? But if you hold yourselves in accountability toward an emotional perspective of polarity, then won't you have that same life? Because you've been living that life the whole time. A polarized life, be believing some set of knowledge because you're knowledgeable, education, the culture you told this is the truth and those other things aren't the truth. Then you'll live that life. That's what you got to see. But there's a different choice inside, and that's the work we do. That's the work of an ascender, is to no longer choose the outside, knowledgeable, standardized choices of the truth and find the inner truth, which sometimes those external truths are still your internal truth. But that's the journey of
No?
self-discovery.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say before we so is that um, uh, the evolution is real, and the evolution into your knowing is real too. Meaning that, as Roxy was saying before, is that you are expressing the best self in the moment. So that as you evolve, there will be a moment where your knowing is evolving too. And you have access to a different version of the knowing, or a more evolved version of the knowing. Because that's what in that moment you can express the best version of you. And I'm experiencing that right now, where Spain does that to me. It's like a trigger where I go into some kind of evolution, some kind of stuff that brings like more deep, or it's pushing me somehow. And I'm here in Spain right now, and I'm going through revisiting this knowing, and what I exchanged with Roxy, and suddenly I have some kind of awakening, or understanding that kicks in, where suddenly I see these things that I would have been told for years now, but it's bringing a new meaning, a new understanding, a new knowing. So it's evolving, and it's constant, right? We are constantly evolving and changing. So there you go.
There you go.
Very
Good stuff,
interesting.
Max.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
everyone.
So,
Give a shout out to all you for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if we're going
Yes.
to wrap it up, I'll go ahead and let you know you can get a hold of me, Roxanne. I am available at odysseyofascension.com and Odyssey of Ascension on YouTube. If you want to tune into a lot of my channelings, and a lot of my work is on there. And tell them where they can find you, Max.
breakfastwithmax.com and YouTube, Breakfast with Max. And you can join me, yes. And you can contact me through my website. There is messages and all of that. So if you need, you can have a hold of us.
Beautiful.
So yes, thank you for joining in. Thank you, Roxy. Wonderful
welcome,
as
Max.
always. Thank you.
And we will see you next week, everybody.
Yes. See you next week. Goodbye.